Hi, this is Vince Molina with Brodbeck Ironworks. Today we're going to be going over how to fine-tune your machine. At this point, you should have already gone through our assembly instruction and have the machine assembled and ready to go. And now we're going to go on how to fine-tune it to make sure you have optimal tracking and optimal functionality with the least amount of vibration. So here we go. So first of all, your drive wheel. This is probably the issue that comes up the most. You have to make sure that you have about a ½ inch gap between the back of the wheel and the side of the chassis. That pretty much is the only variable that you have in the machine that you have to set by hand. Everything else is set by the different stack ups. So make sure you have a ½ inch gap between the back of your wheel and your chassis. Second, we're going to verify all the different stack ups. In between your tracking wheel and your tracking arm, there should be one nut and one washer. You also need to make sure that you have no slop. So what you want to do is you want to hold on to the pivoting bracket, and then you want to move this wheel back and forth. You want to make sure that there's no slop, but you want to make sure that the wheel turns freely. Then we're going to check the hardware stack up between the tracking arm and the chassis. That should be one thick spacer and two washers. And you want to make sure to torque it so that you don't have a lot of side-to-side play. And so here, this has been torqued. As you can see, when I move this from side to side, I might have a 1/16 of an inch of play, and that's mainly a little bit of flex that you get in here. Then we're gonna look at the hardware stack ups around your gas spring. It should be one washer between the eyelet and your tracking arm, one washer on the outside underneath the nut. And the same for the bottom one. It's the exact same stack up for both of them. Now, you want to compress the gas cylinder all the way down. And once you have it compressed, you want to release it. The key thing is you want the gas spring to fully release so that you cannot further extend it. This was released all the way out. That is the right amount of torque and pressure on each of these three locations rather. The main driver is the bolt that secures the tracking arm to the chassis. If you don't see this gas spring fully expanding, you may want to loosen this a little bit. If after loosening this, you're still tight, then you want to come back and loosen these guys a little bit. So these guys should be, everything should be free to move, but not a lot of slop in between them. So that pretty much sets up the chassis. Now that we're done setting up the chassis, we're onto the flat platen. The flat platen, you want to make sure that you have one nut and one thick spacer between the wheel and the D plate. You want to make sure that you tighten this tight enough that there's no side-to-side movement, but the wheel is able to spin freely. Occasionally, you will have a belt that's tracking at a slight angle. If that happens, swap these two wheels, and that will solve that problem most of the time. If that does not solve the problem, what you want to do is loosen up these two screws. If you notice, the holes in here are slotted, and then you can adjust your wear plate so that it is perfectly in line with the belt. Again, that's not something that happens very often, but the tolerance stack ups sometimes work to where that does happen. In that case, that's a very quick fix. The very last thing we're gonna do is adjust the hinging plates that allow you to turn the machine sideways. And you wanna make sure these 4 bolts are snug, but not super tight. However, you want them tight enough so that the machine can hold its position at any point in that turn. So what I like to do is loosen up your lever and turn it to about a 45-degree angle and let it go. The machine should be able to stay and hold any position during that rotation. That shows that all the bolts are tight enough, and that's going to greatly reduce any vibration in the machine during the operation. Now that we have the machine tuned, we're going to go ahead and put a belt on and run it, just to confirm that everything is been properly set up. You want to use a brand new belt that's never been put on another machine, or that has been left on this machine on overnight or for a period of time. The reason for that is your belts will stretch funny if you leave them on the machine or if you run them on a different machine, just because the tracking mechanisms are different. So you want to use a brand new belt. Tension it. Always start your machine at a stop. Start increasing your speed. And there you go. Well, that concludes our setup. Once again, thank you so much for supporting our business, and we look forward to hearing your feedback. And if this doesn't resolve and doesn't allow you to set up your machine properly, give me a call, 301-221-9321, and I'll be happy to help.